My husband assaulted me in front of his parents, who told me not to cause drama, but my daughter exposed something that left him speechless. It happened during Sunday dinner at their house, the kind of weekly obligation I'd been enduring for 8 years. Their dining room always smelled like roast beef and disappointment. Mitchell's mother had just brought out dessert when I made the mistake of mentioning that I'd signed up for night classes to finish my accounting degree. "Why would you do that without discussing it with Mitchell?" his father asked, cutting his pie with surgical precision. "I did discuss it," I said quietly. "He said it was fine." Mitchell's jaw tightened. "I said we'd talk about it later. You said okay." His hand shot across the table and grabbed my wrist so hard I felt something pop. He twisted it until tears sprang to my eyes. "Don't contradict me in front of my parents." I tried to pull away. His mother dabbed her mouth with a napkin. "Veronica, please. We're having a nice dinner. There's no need to cause drama." My daughter Iris, who was 9 and had been pushing peas around her plate, suddenly stood up. "Daddy, why do you have pictures of Aunt Bethany on your phone without her clothes?" The room went completely silent. Mitchell released my wrist immediately. His face drained of color. "What?" his mother whispered. Iris pulled out her tablet. "I saw them yesterday when I borrowed Daddy's phone to play games. He has a whole folder. See?" She held up the screen, and I watched Mitchell's father's expression transform from confusion to disgust. His mother made a small choking sound. Mitchell lunged for the tablet, but Iris had already sent the images to my phone through their shared family cloud. I'd taught her how to do that months ago when she wanted to transfer her drawings between devices. The photos were time-stamped, hundreds of them, going back 3 years. His younger sister Bethany, who'd been living in their guest house since her divorce. The guest house that was exactly 30 feet from our bedroom window. I thought about all those nights Mitchell said he was checking on his parents' security system. All those weekend mornings he offered to bring Bethany coffee. How she'd stopped making eye contact with me at family gatherings. Mitchell's father stood slowly. "Get out of my house. Dad, I can explain. Get out." His voice was shaking. "And don't come back." I grabbed Iris and my purse. As we walked to the car, I heard his mother sobbing inside. Mitchell followed us into the driveway, grabbing my arm again. "You put her up to this. Let go of me." "You little bitch, you've been planning." Iris snapped another photo of him grabbing me. "Mommy showed me how to send pictures to the police too. Should I?" His hand dropped. We drove home in silence. When we got there, the locks had been changed. My clothes were in garbage bags on the lawn. I took Iris to my sister's house that night. The next morning, I filed for divorce and a restraining order. The tablet had also captured his text messages with Bethany. They'd been planning to get married once he could get rid of the dead weight. That's what he called me. Dead weight. The divorce hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. I moved into a tiny apartment and started my night classes anyway. Mitchell's family had money and connections. My lawyer said it would be difficult without proof of sustained abuse. But Iris had been documenting more than I realized. She'd been secretly recording his screaming fits for months, saving them in a hidden folder she called Evidence for Mommy. My 9-year-old daughter had been building a case against her own father since she was 8 years old. 3 days before our hearing, Mitchell's mother called me. "We need to talk," she said. "There's something about Mitchell you don't know. Something that happened with his first wife." I met her at a coffee shop downtown, the kind with mismatched furniture and art students working on laptops. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Her makeup couldn't hide the shadows under her eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, stirring her untouched latte. "I know I don't deserve your time after what I said at dinner." I waited. I'd learned not to fill uncomfortable silences anymore. "Mitchell had a wife before you," she continued. "Her name was Claudia. They got married when he was 25. The marriage lasted 2 years. I already knew this. Mitchell had mentioned an early marriage that didn't work out. He'd said they were too young, wanted different things. Standard divorce story." His mother reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder. "What I'm about to tell you, my husband doesn't know. I've kept this secret for 11 years because I was ashamed, because I chose my son over doing what was right." She slid the folder across to me. Inside were hospital records, police reports, and photographs that made my stomach turn. Claudia's face, swollen and bruised, her arm in a cast, a restraining order that Mitchell had violated 6 times before the court finally enforced it. "He put her in the hospital twice," his mother said, her voice breaking. "The first time she told everyone she fell down the stairs. The second time her jaw was broken in 3 places. That time, she pressed charges." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw my granddaughter's face at that dinner table. I saw how quickly she moved to protect you. She's been living with this fear, hasn't she? Watching and waiting for the moment she'd need to defend her mother." I couldn't speak. "I thought Mitchell had changed," she continued. "He went to anger management. He saw a therapist. When he met you, he seemed different, calmer. I convinced myself that Claudia had been the problem, that she'd provoked him somehow. I was wrong. And I've been wrong for allowing him to hurt another woman." "What happened to Claudia?" "She moved to Oregon, changed her name. Last I heard, she was married to a kind man and had 2 children, but she has permanent nerve damage in her hand from where Mitchell slammed it in a car door." I looked at the photographs again. The progression was familiar. It started with control, then isolation, then escalation. I'd been on that same path. The only difference was that Iris had stopped it before it got to the hospital stage. "I'm testifying at your hearing," his mother said. "I'm bringing all of this. My husband will never forgive me, and Mitchell will probably never speak to me again. But I can't let him do to you what he did to her." "Why did you tell me not to cause drama at dinner?" She closed her eyes. Because that's what I've been doing for 38 years. Keeping the peace, pretending everything is fine. My husband is a good man, but he's blind when it comes to Mitchell. He's our only son, our golden child. I've spent decades making excuses for behavior that should have landed Mitchell in jail. What about Bethany? His mother flinched. I confronted her yesterday. She's been planning to leave the country with him. They were going to wait until after the divorce, take what they could from the family accounts, and disappear to Costa Rica. She said she loves him, that what they have is real. I felt sick. Did she know about Claudia? She knows now. I showed her these same photos. She called me a liar and said I was just trying to protect you out of guilt. Is she still at the guest house? No. My husband kicked her out that night. She's staying with friends, I think. She's been calling me nonstop, saying I've ruined her life, that Mitchell is the only person who ever truly understood her. The waitress came by to refill our coffees. We both waited until she left. There's something else, his mother said. She pulled out another document. This one newer. Mitchell took out a life insurance policy on you 3 months ago. It's for $500,000. I found it when I was going through his papers at our house, trying to understand who my son really is. My blood ran cold. Why would he do that? I don't know. But given everything else, I think you need to be very careful. The restraining order is just a piece of paper. It didn't stop him with Claudia until she moved 2,000 miles away. I looked at this woman who'd enabled her son's violence for years, who'd told me not to cause drama while he twisted my wrist hard enough to sprain it. Part of me hated her, but another part recognized the courage it took to finally admit the truth. I need to get back to Iris, I said, standing up. Wait, she grabbed my hand gently. I know I can't undo the damage I've caused, but please let me help you now. I have lawyers, resources. My husband's firm has connections with judges. I can make sure you and Iris are protected. Why now? Why after all these years? Because I saw my granddaughter's face, and I realized she's already learned what I spent 38 years teaching myself: how to document abuse, how to collect evidence, how to protect herself. She's 9 years old, and she's already surviving in ways no child should have to. Tears were streaming down her face now, ruining what was left of her makeup. I was her age when my father started hitting my mother, she continued. I used to hide in my closet and write down dates and times, thinking someone would eventually ask me what I saw. No one ever did. My mother stayed until he died, and I married a kind man, but I still passed that survival instinct to my son somehow. Except in him, it twisted into something else. I left her sitting there and drove back to my sister's house. Iris was doing homework at the kitchen table, her tablet beside her. She looked up when I came in. Did Grandma tell you about Daddy's other wife? My sister dropped the pan she was washing. How do you know about that? I asked. I heard Daddy talking on the phone once. He was telling Aunt Bethany that he'd made mistakes before, but he'd learned how to be smarter about it this time. I Googled his name with the word wife and found some old news articles. Show me. She pulled up her tablet and showed me a cached page from a small newspaper in Connecticut. The headline read, "Local man arrested for violating protection order." Mitchell's mugshot stared back at me, 11 years younger, but with the same cold eyes I'd seen flash with rage 100 times. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Iris looked down at her homework. I tried to, sort of. Remember when I asked if you and Daddy were going to get divorced? That was 6 months ago. I'd brushed it off, told her we were fine. You said everything was okay, she continued. But I saw you crying in the bathroom after he yelled at you about the grocery bill. I started recording him after that, just in case. My sister sat down heavily. This kid is 9 years old, she said. 9. The next few days passed in a blur. My lawyer was ecstatic about the new evidence. She filed emergency motions to revoke Mitchell's visitation rights and freeze his access to my accounts. The life insurance policy became a key piece of evidence showing premeditation of harm. Mitchell's mother provided testimony about his history of violence, complete with hospital records and police reports that had somehow been sealed in the original case. But Mitchell's lawyer was good. He filed counter motions claiming his mother was senile, that the evidence had been tampered with, that I'd coached Iris to lie about finding the photos. He painted me as a vindictive wife trying to destroy a man's relationship with his daughter. The hearing was brutal. I sat on one side of the courtroom with my lawyer while Mitchell sat on the other, looking every bit the wounded party. His new lawyer was a woman in her 40s who specialized in defending men accused of domestic violence. Her strategy was obvious. Make me look like the aggressor, the manipulator, the one tearing this family apart. Mrs. Caldwell, she began, when it was her turn to question me. Isn't it true that you deliberately provoked your husband at family dinner by announcing major life decisions without his input? I discussed the night classes with him 2 weeks prior, I said. He approved. But you admit that in his parents' home, in front of his family, you publicly contradicted him? I stated a fact. A fact that made him look bad in front of his parents, correct? He grabbed my wrist hard enough to sprain it. That's what made him look bad. She smiled, like she'd been waiting for that answer. You claim your wrist was sprained, yet you didn't seek medical attention until 3 days later. Isn't it possible you injured yourself after the fact to support your narrative? My lawyer objected. The judge sustained it, but the damage was done. The jury was looking at me differently now. Then they brought up Iris. Mitchell's lawyer played the tablet incident like I'd orchestrated the whole thing. She suggested I'd planted the photos on Mitchell's phone, that I'd coached Iris to access them at precisely the right moment for maximum impact. Your daughter is remarkably technologically sophisticated for a 9-year-old, isn't she? She's good with devices, yes. And you taught her how to use the family cloud system, how to send files between devices, how to take screenshots. I taught her basic skills any child should know, including how to secretly record conversations. I never told her to do that. But you didn't stop her once you discovered she had been? I didn't know until after we'd already left. Mitchell's lawyer paced in front of me. So your 9-year-old daughter, entirely on her own initiative, decided to build a secret folder of evidence against her father. She named it something as sophisticated as evidence for mommy. She knew to timestamp photos, to back up recordings, to document incidents, all without any guidance from you. My daughter is a smart girl who was trying to protect herself and her mother. Or, she suggested, your daughter is a child who's been manipulated into believing her father is a monster by a mother who wanted out of her marriage and needed ammunition for a custody battle. That's not true, isn't it? She pulled out her own folder. I have here testimony from Mitchell's co-workers, his friends, his personal trainer. All of them describe a devoted father, a kind man who's bewildered by these accusations. Not one person outside your immediate family has ever witnessed him being violent or aggressive, because abuse happens behind closed doors. How convenient. My lawyer cross-examined, bringing back Mitchell's mother to testify about Claudia, about the pattern of violence, about the life insurance policy. But Mitchell's lawyer was ready for that too. She produced medical records showing his mother had been treated for depression and anxiety, suggesting her testimony was unreliable. She claimed the life insurance policy was standard financial planning for a man with a family. Then they brought Mitchell to the stand. He was perfect, composed, remorseful, confused. He admitted he'd grabbed my wrist, but claimed it was reflexive, that he was reaching for the water pitcher at the same moment I moved my hand. Pure coincidence. He choked up when talking about Iris, about how much he loved her, how devastating it was to be separated from his daughter. As for Bethany, he had an explanation ready. Yes, there were photos on his phone, but they'd been sent to him by Bethany herself, unsolicited, during a period when she was having a mental health crisis after her divorce. He'd kept them because he didn't know how to handle the situation, didn't want to embarrass his sister by telling their parents. The text messages about getting rid of dead weight? Taken out of context. They were discussing cleaning out the garage. Getting rid of dead weight meant old furniture and boxes. It was brilliant. It was a complete lie, but it was brilliant. The judge called a recess. I sat in the hallway with my lawyer, my sister, and Iris. They're going to give him partial custody, I said. I can see it. My lawyer squeezed my hand. We still have your mother-in-law's testimony. That carries weight, but she's his mother. They'll say she's biased against him for some family drama reason, just like they're saying I am. Iris had been quiet through all of this, coloring in a notebook my sister had brought to keep her occupied. Now she looked up. I can testify, she said. Absolutely not, my sister and I said simultaneously. But I saw everything. I can tell them what Daddy said when he grabbed you. You're 9, I said gently. You shouldn't have to be in that courtroom, but I want to. She set down her crayon. Mommy, I've been watching you pretend everything is okay for years. You smile when Daddy yells. You apologize when he breaks things. You make excuses when he hurts you. I'm tired of pretending too. Honey, this is adult stuff. I'm the one who has to live with whatever the judge decides, she said. If Daddy gets custody, even part-time, I'll have to go to his house. And I don't feel safe there. So please let me tell the truth. My lawyer looked at me. It's not ideal. She's young, and the opposing counsel will try to discredit her. But she's also credible. She's calm, articulate. If she's willing to testify, it could be powerful. I looked at my daughter, this tiny person who'd been forced to become a guardian instead of just being a child. This shouldn't be happening. She should be worried about spelling tests and making friends, not building legal cases against her father. Okay, I said finally, but if it gets too hard, you can stop. The next morning, Iris took the stand. She looked impossibly small in the witness chair. The court had brought in a child psychologist to observe, and the judge warned both lawyers to keep their questions appropriate for her age. Mitchell's lawyer went first, trying to rattle her. Iris, do you love your daddy? Yes. Has he ever hurt you? No. So you're not afraid of him? Iris paused, considering the question carefully. Not when other people are watching. The courtroom went silent. The lawyer tried again. Your mother taught you how to use the cloud system, correct? Yes. She taught me lots of things. Did she ever tell you to spy on your father? No. She told me to be careful with technology and to save important things in case I needed them later. Did your mother tell you what to say today? No. She told me to tell the truth. And what is the truth, Iris? My daughter looked directly at Mitchell. The truth is that Daddy is nice when people are watching. He brings me presents. He takes me to the park. He helps with my homework. But when it's just us and Mommy, he's different. He yells so loud the neighbors call to check on us. He throws things. He tells Mommy she's stupid and worthless. Once, he pushed her so hard she hit her head on the wall and I had to get ice from the freezer. Mitchell's face was red. His lawyer tried to interrupt, but Iris kept talking. I started recording him because I wanted proof. I thought maybe if I could show someone what he was really like, they'd believe Mommy. Because she always says she's fine even when she's crying in the bathroom. She always makes excuses for him even when I can see the bruises. The psychologist was taking notes furiously. The judge was leaning forward. One time, Iris continued, Daddy told me that if Mommy ever tried to leave, he'd make sure I never saw her again. He said courts always believe fathers, especially fathers with money. He said Mommy was nothing without him. That's a lie, Mitchell shouted, standing up. His lawyer grabbed his arm, but the damage was done. Iris didn't even flinch. See? She said quietly. That's the voice. That's how he sounds at home. My lawyer asked only 2 questions on redirect. Iris, are you afraid of your father? Yes. Why? Because mommy told me that people who hurt the ones they love don't stop unless someone makes them stop. And daddy never stops. The hearing lasted another 3 hours, but I knew we'd won. The judge ordered supervised visitation only, with Mitchell required to complete a year of intensive therapy and anger management before any custody would be reconsidered. He froze Mitchell's access to my accounts, granted me exclusive use of the marital home, and ordered Mitchell to pay temporary support. But the biggest victory came 2 days later. Bethany showed up at my sister's house, looking worse than I'd ever seen her. Her hair was unwashed. Her clothes hung loose. She had the hollow look I recognized from when I'd first started planning my escape. "Can we talk?" she asked. We sat on the porch while Iris played in the backyard. My sister hovered in the doorway, protective. "I'm sorry," Bethany said. "I didn't know about Claudia. I didn't know what he was capable of. You knew he was married to me. You knew what you were doing." She looked down at her hands. "I was in a bad place after my divorce. Mitchell was there. He listened. He made me feel special. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already in too deep. Did he hurt you?" "Not at first. But after everything came out, after our mother kicked me out, I went to stay with him at a motel. That first night, he started talking about how we needed to leave the country, how we could start over somewhere new. When I said I wasn't sure, he got angry, really angry." She rolled up her sleeves. I saw the finger-shaped bruises on her arms. "He told me I'd ruined his life," she continued, "that I'd sent those photos to him when I was drunk, that I'd initiated everything, and now I needed to fix it. He said if I didn't back up his story in court, he'd tell everyone I'd seduced him, that I was obsessed with him, that I'd been stalking him for years. Will you testify to that?" "I already did. I went to your lawyer this morning. I gave her everything, texts, emails, voicemails. Mitchell's been planning to leave the country for months. He has offshore accounts I didn't even know about. He was going to drain everything and disappear. Why are you doing this now?" "Because I watched that little girl on the stand. I watched her defend her mother with more courage than I've ever had in my life. And I realized that if I stay silent, I'm as guilty as he is. Where will you go?" "My mother said I can move back into the guest house once some time has passed. But I need to get help first. Real help. Because I've been making excuses for my choices, blaming my divorce, blaming my depression, blaming everything except my own willingness to hurt another woman for a man who was never going to choose me anyway." She stood to leave. "For what it's worth, I really am sorry. You deserved better. Your daughter deserved better. And I hope someday you can forgive me, even though I don't deserve it." I watched her walk away, this broken woman who'd been complicit in her own destruction. I didn't forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I understood her a little better. The divorce was finalized 8 months later. I got full custody with Mitchell's visitation contingent on completing his court-ordered programs. He never did. Instead, he moved to Florida, called Iris twice in the first month, then stopped calling altogether. He sent child support irregularly, usually late, often short. But we were free. That was what mattered. I finished my accounting degree, working overnight shifts at a hotel while Iris stayed with my sister. I graduated with honors and got hired at a firm downtown. Small at first, but respectable. I was good at numbers. They made sense in ways people didn't. Iris thrived. She joined the robotics club at school and made friends with kids who appreciated her analytical mind. Her teacher called me in once, concerned about some drawings Iris had made of monsters. But when I saw them, I understood. They were labeled with dates and descriptions. She was still documenting things, still keeping records. It was how she processed trauma. We started therapy together, then separately. My therapist had me write letters to Mitchell that I'd never send, documenting everything I'd swallowed and excused over the years. Iris worked with a child psychologist who specialized in kids who'd witnessed domestic violence. Some weeks were better than others. On Iris's 10th birthday, Mitchell's mother called. She'd divorced her husband, who'd refused to accept what Mitchell had done. She'd moved into a small condo across town and wanted to know if she could see Iris sometimes. Not to replace anything, she said. Not to make excuses. Just to be a grandmother if I'd let her. I thought about it for a long time. Then I let Iris decide. "I want to see Grandma," Iris said. "But only if she promises never to tell me to give Daddy another chance." We met at a park. Mitchell's mother brought Iris a robotics kit she'd spent hours researching. She didn't make excuses. She didn't defend Mitchell. She just asked Iris about school and listened when Iris told her about the science fair project she was planning. Afterward, Iris turned to me. "Is it okay to love Grandma even though I don't love Daddy anymore?" "Yes," I said. "We get to choose our family now." 3 years passed. I made junior partner at my firm. Iris started middle school and discovered a talent for coding. Mitchell's child support payments stopped entirely after he lost his job in Florida. My lawyer filed for wage garnishment, but Mitchell moved around too much to enforce it consistently. Eventually, I stopped trying. We didn't need him anymore. Then one evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a woman's voice said, "Is this Veronica Caldwell?" "Yes." "This is Detective Hammond with the Fort Myers Police Department. I'm calling about Mitchell Caldwell. Is he your ex-husband?" My stomach dropped. "Yes." "Why?" "There's been an incident. Mr. Caldwell is in custody for assault. His current girlfriend is in the hospital. She listed you as an emergency contact. Why would she do that? She said you'd warned her about him, that she should have listened." I drove to the hospital the next day, bringing Iris because I didn't want to leave her with a sitter while processing this. The girlfriend's name was Fiona. She was 28, 7 years younger than me. Her jaw was wired shut. Her arm was in a cast. She had the same hollow look in her eyes that I'd seen in Bethany's. I tried to talk to her, but she could only nod. A nurse handed me a letter Fiona had written before her surgery. "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. Mitchell told me you were crazy, vindictive, that you'd made everything up to win custody. I believed him because I wanted to, because the man I fell in love with couldn't possibly be the man you described. But you were telling the truth, about all of it." He started with small things, criticizing my clothes, my friends, my job, then isolating me, then controlling my money. Last night, I told him I wanted to leave. He put me through a glass table. I folded the letter and went back to Fiona's room. Iris came with me. She stood at the foot of the bed and said, "My daddy hurt you because that's what he does. He hurts people who love him. I'm sorry he hurt you too." Fiona started crying. The nurse had to sedate her. In the parking lot, Iris asked, "How many women has daddy hurt?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Probably more than we'll ever know. Will he go to jail this time?" "I hope so. But you don't think he will." I looked at my daughter, this wise child who'd already learned that justice isn't guaranteed. "No, I don't think he will." I was right. Mitchell pled down to a lesser charge, spent 6 months in county jail, and got out on good behavior. But something had shifted. The pattern was now documented across 3 states with 3 different women. His name showed up in domestic violence databases. His lawyer dropped him. His family stopped taking his calls. Fiona pressed charges and followed through. She testified at his sentencing hearing, as did Mitchell's mother. They played Iris's testimony from our custody hearing. The judge looked tired, like she'd seen this same story too many times. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, "you are a danger to every woman who makes the mistake of loving you. I'm sentencing you to 18 months, but I want you to understand something. Your daughter is 13 years old. In 5 years, she'll be an adult. She'll make her own choices about whether to have you in her life. And based on everything I've seen today, I don't think she'll choose you." Mitchell didn't look at any of us. He was taken away in handcuffs, and I felt nothing. Not relief, not vindication, just exhaustion. Iris and I walked out of that courthouse together, holding hands like we'd done 1,000 times before. We got ice cream on the way home. She told me about a boy in her coding class who'd asked her to the spring dance. We talked about normal things, mundane things, the kind of things mothers and daughters should get to talk about. That night, as I tucked her in, she said, "Mom, do you think Daddy ever loved us?" I thought about lying, about saying something comforting. But Iris deserved the truth. "I think Daddy loves himself," I said. "And sometimes he loves the idea of having a family. But real love means protecting people, not hurting them. Real love means putting someone else first. Daddy never learned how to do that." She nodded, processing this. Then she said, "I'm glad we got away." "Me too, baby. Me too." 4 years later, Iris graduated high school as valedictorian. She'd been accepted to 6 universities, all offering full scholarships. She chose a computer science program 3 states away. Mitchell sent a card with no money in it, no real message, just his signature. Iris threw it away without opening it. At her graduation party, Mitchell's mother pulled me aside. She was older now, grayer, but there was peace in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Thank you," she said, "for letting me be part of her life. She's your granddaughter. She deserves to know her grandmother. I spent 38 years enabling my son. I told myself I was being loyal, being a good mother. But good mothers don't teach their children that love means accepting abuse. They don't teach them that family means protecting the abuser instead of the victim. I'm sorry it took me so long to learn that." We stood together watching Iris laugh with her friends. This brilliant young woman who'd survived something no child should have to survive. "She's going to change the world," Mitchell's mother said softly. "Not in spite of what happened to her, but because of it. She learned early what so many women never learn, that you don't have to stay, that you don't have to make excuses, that you can save yourself, and that sometimes the bravest thing a child can do is protect their parent when their parent couldn't protect themselves." Iris left for college in August. I helped her move into her dorm, met her roommate, arranged everything just so. When it was time for me to leave, she hugged me tight. "You know I'm proud of you, right?" I said. "I know." She pulled back and looked at me seriously. "But I'm proud of us. We survived. And we did it together." I drove home alone that night, crying and laughing at the same time. The house felt empty without her. But it was a good kind of empty, a safe kind of empty. I'd never remarried, never even dated seriously. My therapist said that was okay, that healing takes time, that some people never want that kind of relationship again after what they've survived. But I wasn't unhappy. I had my career, my friends, my sister, my life. And I had Iris calling me every Sunday to tell me about her classes and her projects and the life she was building far away from the shadow of her father. 2 years into her degree, Iris called me with news. She'd been recruited by a tech startup developing safety apps for domestic violence survivors. They wanted her to head their development team. "It's everything I've been working toward," she said, her voice electric with excitement. "We're building something that could actually help people. GPS tracking, silent emergency alerts, evidence documentation. All the things I wish we'd had when I was 9. You're going to save lives," I told her. "You already saved mine." "No, Mom, we saved each other." She was right. We'd both been drowning in our own ways. But we'd held on to each other and somehow made it to shore. Now, at 21, Iris was exactly where she needed to be. And I was finally, truly free. Not just from Mitchell, but from the shame of having stayed so long, from the guilt of not protecting her better, from the fear that had shadowed every decision I'd made for years. I looked back sometimes, wondering what would have happened if Iris hadn't found those photos, hadn't been brave enough to expose Mitchell at that dinner table. Would I have kept pretending everything was fine? Would he have escalated further? The life insurance policy suggested he'd been planning something. Maybe I wouldn't have survived to wonder. But I did survive. We both did. And that was what mattered. Mitchell died 3 years later. Liver failure from years of heavy drinking. He was alone in a studio apartment in Nevada when it happened. The landlord found him after neighbors complained about the smell. He was 42 years old. Iris didn't go to the funeral. Neither did I. His mother went, along with 2 cousins who barely knew him. They buried him in a cemetery outside Las Vegas, far from family, far from anyone who'd cared. When Mitchell's mother called to tell us, Iris was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I don't feel anything. Is that wrong?" "No," I told her. "You don't owe him grief. What about you? Do you feel anything?" I thought about it honestly. Relief, maybe. That he can't hurt anyone else. That this chapter is finally, completely closed. Iris nodded. "Then let's not talk about him anymore. Tell me about your promotion instead." And just like that, we moved on. Because that was what survivors did. They kept living, kept building, kept creating lives that meant something beyond the trauma they'd endured. Iris is 28 now. Her app has helped over 250,000 women escape dangerous relationships. She's been featured in Forbes, TED Talks, national news. She met someone, a kind person who understands her boundaries and never pushes. They're talking about getting married. I'm 48, still at the firm, still close with my sister, still going to therapy every other week. I bought a house with a garden. I adopted a dog named Justice. I have friends who know my whole story and love me anyway. Sometimes I think about the woman I was at 30, sitting at that Sunday dinner table accepting my mother-in-law's criticism about causing drama. That woman who'd learned to make herself smaller, quieter, more convenient, who'd accepted crumbs of affection and called it love. I don't recognize her anymore, and that's how I know I've truly healed. Last week I spoke at a domestic violence awareness event. Iris was supposed to join me, but she was traveling for work, so I stood there alone and told our story. About Mitchell, about the photos, about a 9-year-old girl who was braver than any adult in her life. Afterward, a young woman approached me. She looked like I had 15 years ago, tired, afraid, making excuses. "How did you know it was time to leave?" she asked. "I didn't," I told her honestly. My daughter knew. She saw what I couldn't see anymore. But once I started listening to her, once I stopped making excuses, everything became clear. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Good. Fear keeps you alert. But don't let it keep you trapped. You deserve better than this. Your children deserve better than this. And leaving is possible. It won't be easy, but it's possible." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Then she hugged me and walked away. I watched her go, hoping she'd find the courage I hadn't found until it was almost too late. That's the thing about surviving abuse. You never really stop surviving. The trauma lives in your body, in your reflexes, in the way you flinch at loud noises or test every relationship for signs of danger. But you learn to carry it differently, to make it lighter, to use it to help others instead of letting it crush you. Iris calls that night. "Mom, I saw your speech online. You were amazing. I learned from the best," I said. "You were 9 years old, and you knew exactly what to do. How did you figure it out?" She was quiet for a moment. "I used to watch this show about solving crimes. They always talked about evidence, about documentation, about building a case. And I just thought, if bad guys get caught because someone collected evidence, maybe I could do that too. So I started paying attention, writing things down, saving things, just in case. You were so young to carry that burden, maybe. But I'm glad I did. Because look where we are now. You're helping other women escape. I'm building tools to make it easier. We turned something terrible into something good. Do you ever wish things had been different? That you'd had a normal childhood?" "Sometimes," she admitted. "But then I think about how many women I've helped. How many kids won't have to do what I did because we built something better. And I think maybe this is what I was meant to do. Maybe my purpose was always to survive so I could help others survive too." After we hang up, I sit on my porch with Justice curled at my feet. The stars are bright tonight. The air smells like jasmine from my neighbor's garden. Everything is quiet and peaceful, and mine. I think about Mitchell sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. I wonder if he ever understood what he'd done, what he'd destroyed, what he'd lost. I wonder if he felt any remorse in those final days alone in that apartment. I hope he did. I hope he understood finally that the problem was never us. It was always him. But mostly I don't think about him at all, because he doesn't deserve my thoughts. He doesn't deserve my energy. He certainly doesn't deserve my grief. What he gave me, accidentally, was this life I have now. This hard-won, carefully built, fiercely protected life, where I answer to no one, where I make my own choices, where I'm never afraid of footsteps in the hallway or the tone of voice that means danger is coming. Iris gave me that too. Her courage, her clarity, her refusal to pretend that pain wasn't real. She saved us both, and now she's saving others. That's the legacy of survival. Not the trauma itself, but what you build from the rubble. Not the scars, but the strength they represent. Not the fear, but the courage you found to face it. 16 years after that Sunday dinner, After Mitchell grabbed my wrist and his mother told me not to cause drama, after Ira stood up and changed everything, I am finally home. Not in a place, but in myself, in the knowledge that I am enough, that I always was, that the person who was broken wasn't me, it was him, and I am free.